what's going on? It's Reggie with the Basic Black Podcast. Today's a little different. You guys going to have to bear with us. We did some upgrades in studio equipment and went ahead and made a little extra room for another microphone so we can start having more guests in-house, and we can have guests that can call in from wherever they may be. But today is really special. And if you hear that little whining, I'm not going to edit that. That is our dog in the background being really angry or mad or pissed off. But anyway, I have a special guest today, and that special guest is none other than my wonderful, beautiful wife. I know I talk about her in numerous broadcasts because she has been not only my rock and my support and my number one fan, I hope. But yeah, she is going to be here with us for a little while to give us some insight. And so without further ado, let me go ahead and Julia, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
My name is Julia, and I am the wife of Reginald Basic Black Podcast Jackson.
All right. The reason I asked Julia to come on today was really something I wanted to discuss. I was listening to another podcast on Apple Podcasts, and it was talking about relationships. And off and on, we like to talk about relationships because, well, they're crucial. One of the things that got me, and it kind of had it bared some fruit in our story. Now, the one thing that I wanted to talk about, and this podcast was really amazing, and it's a question that I know I get a good amount of times, and I know my wife being a woman and, her having single friends and whatnot, and her being the married gal in the group, they get that, where are the good guys at? Where can you find, do you have any friends, or can you hook me up with somebody, and this, that, and the other? Now, this podcast that I was listening to earlier today, it was talking about the lack of good available, gotta say black men, because I can't speak for any other race but my own. And they talked about, that there's a lack of not just accessible, but a lack of good dating options out there, to where a woman who has, pretty much will establish herself is not able to find someone either, almost as equal, or at least have the chance to better himself while he's in a relationship with her. So let me stop running and babbling. The point was this: the podcast did speak, and they said that black women should really look at the dating opportunity, not just from a domestic perspective. They need to look at it from an international perspective. So I know my wife. I know, before we met, we believe in transparency. So we share stories off and on and whatnot. And she is one who's had a love of travel way before me. And everybody has their past when they're going through relationships, good, bad, or the other. And her story really hit home to me, because I consider myself actually extra lucky, because I might have not been married to this woman if, things didn't fall into place. So I wanted to ask my wife this. Okay, Julia, here's the great question. What do you think and feel about when it comes to dating in another country? What's your thoughts on that?
Well, I think that if, you're blessed to have that experience or that opportunity, I think that women should take it, because for me, it was a good experience for me. Because I've been living in the United States forever, and I kept meeting like the same type of guys. So I was like, I dated black guys, I dated white guys, I dated Indian guys. And I said, well, let me try dating abroad. Maybe they might have a different mindset or a different way they look at dating or something. So
I'm sorry, go ahead.
In 2017 was the first time I went over to Europe, and I went to Amsterdam, Netherlands, and I started dating. I joined this dating site at the time called OkCupid, and I was talking to different guys abroad that lived in the Netherlands. And I set up dates when I was coming there, and I set up dates for each guys on each day that I was there. And it was fun.
Okay. And I think that's really cool to hear that perspective. Did you feel like there was something when you say you were dating, kind of getting the same type of guy? What were you experiencing? What was
Like, I kept dating, like, they were, a wide variety from professional guys to just regular, average, blue collar guys. And they were single, but they were like emotionally unavailable. Like, they didn't want anything serious. Like, the buck stops here at this certain point. Like, no, don't think about marriage or nothing like that. Like, I'm still keeping my options open. So I would go out with these different guys and, we would vibe and everything, but they didn't want nothing serious. So I felt like, okay, you're just wasting my time. And it was just like the same type of guy in a different body.
Oh, wow.
Like, I would talk to nurses. I would talk to guys that was like professional in the, banking sector, different types of guys, single guys. And they was like, all like, oh, I don't know about being exclusive and I'm not ready to settle down just yet. Or let's just see how things go. I kept hearing that. Let's just see how things go.
Okay. Because I'm going to go ahead and say this for everybody listening so you kind of get a better picture. Myself and Julia, I'm 10 years older. Okay. I'm a wonderful 50 years old. We'll actually be older on January 27th. Anyway, neither here nor there.
You're not getting older. You're getting better.
Oh, see, there you go. I feel so good. Ooh. And for me, I didn't have the dating abroad experience, but for me, it was interesting. And the reason why I say it's interesting is because obviously, if you didn't listen to previous podcasts, I'll go ahead and say this. I was previously married for over 20 years. So imagine 20 years plus of a marriage, and it goes where it goes, wherever it dies. And then, people change, people are different and whatnot. And then, okay, it's over. So I'm like, what, 40s maybe? Like, and I'm back in the dating world. And for me, it was crazy.
Scary.
Oh yeah. It was crazy as hell for me. So, oh my God. Cause what got me was, I know that it was weird. I thought even when we dated, I thought that I wasn't doing enough, and you had to reassure me because I would try to do anything and everything. I was so used. I was in husband mode. I ran around and did everything, and I had to get this, take care of this, and do that. And I don't mean just like the manly things, because first of all, you have the list of things as a man you should be doing for your woman. And ladies, if your man is not doing anything on this list, there's a problem. Number one, he should always be taking care of your car. You should not, as a woman, ever have to go to some auto shop, worry about brakes and tune-ups and whatnot. That job belongs to the man in your life or husband. Number two, shouldn't be filling up your gas. He should be doing that. And and the reason why I say those two things, because, well, gas stations, you can do that. But for me, we all know, and there's women who have went out and bought cars and whatnot and had maintenance done to their vehicles. And they're like, felt like they were taken advantage of because they didn't know a lot about vehicles and whatnot. And they were like, okay, I don't want my car to be messed up because I need it for transportation, need it for work and everything and whatnot. So they end up, on average, paying a little bit more than they should have paid if they had either a boyfriend, brother, spouse, whatever. They are making sure things were being done correctly.
Yeah, because I remember when being single, I had to go to the dealership all the time, the Nissan dealership, because I always had a Nissan. I had 3 Altimas during my single period. Yeah, I was the typical single girl with the Nissan Altima that they would sing about. But yeah, except for the baby. I wasn't a baby mama. So, and they would the dealership would overprice and try to cheat me. And they'd be like, oh, well, you got this issue, but there's another issue that we discovered. And then they'd be like, you want to get this done now because you're going to have some problems if you don't. So then they would pressure me, and then I'd be like, okay, well, go ahead and do that too.
Because I know, sorry, that was my chair. And I know it was one of the weird thing when we started dating. I know that I think there was like the cabin filter. She had when I met her, this time she had a Nissan, what was it?
It was a Nissan Rogue.
Okay, she had a Nissan Rogue, like the
I had upgraded.
Yeah. Yeah, she was a full nurse with a future. So she got out she never did the Sentra, but she had the Ultima. Now she's on to the Rogue. No, so what ended up happening was I think there was the issue with the cabin filters. And she was like, I'm going to go ahead and go to the dealership and I'm just going to go ahead and get the cabin filters. I'm like, why are you doing that? And she's like, well, that's, I guess you want it done, you got to get done. I said, no, let me just run to AutoZone, grab some cabin filters, looked at the manual and replaced them. I'm like, and she was shocked by that. And she was grateful for it. But she was shocked by it because I guess people didn't do that. I wasn't husband at the time. I was just somebody who she was graciously lending her love and time to as an investment. And I just made sure that it paid off. So yeah, that was interesting. So I'm gonna throw it back to you with another question. So Julia, when it came, let me say it like this. Were there any other guys that you ever dated that said, hey, let me help you with your car? Is there anything that you need, or let me just go get it washed for you, or anything like that?
No, I met guys that'd be like, can I drive your car?
Oh no.
Oh, can I drive your car? I'll be back in 10 minutes. I'm like, nope. If I ain't in the car, you can't drive it.
Give me them keys. Yeah. Wow. Wow. And so I think what happened with me was like I felt like after dating and before, marriage and everything else, I had dated a few people before Julia, and it was weird because first of all, one of the things that was weird for me is the fact that from the people that I, at the time had relationships with, it was always like, hey, you're ready to get married. I'm like, well, I just got out of a marriage. I'm like, why are you asking? Because they were like, oh, you're just incredible and this, that, and other. Not saying I'm some super huge, amazing person, but you can't turn a married man out of married mode regardless because he's been divorced. And I was doing all of the married things, all the married errands and all the things you should do. Hey, me getting flowers is something. It's not second. It's not anything that I have to go to a long extent to do, because even when dating Julia, we were in Scottsdale, and I went to the Fry's grocery store, and I said, all right, I'm gonna buy her some flowers. Now, the lady who was making the flowers, she's working and building bouquets and whatnot. I said, okay, I like these roses. And she's like, okay, well, cool. Then she starts putting them together. And I said, hey, do you mind if I come back there and kind of do a little something? I got an idea. And not because I'm super florist or anything, but I've done it a few times. And it's actually been pretty good success. But it's the first time I was doing it for Julia. So what I ended up doing was I arranged the roses. They had this flower glitter. So it had glitter on it. I made sure the baby's breath and all the other accent pieces were there. They had some really cool paper to wrap the roses, and it actually looked like, was it a newspaper?
Yeah, it was like newspaper.
Okay, so it was like newspaper. So it was really cool. So I put it together and I brought it to her, and she was really touched by it. And that started let me start bringing fresh flowers, because she loves fresh flowers. So I just went ahead, put a vase out, and when those started to get old, I would just go ahead and just replace them with some more flowers, and that started traditions for us.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so I didn't need a hint. I didn't need a wink, wink, we should be doing this type thing. It was like, okay, this is what you do. And dating along those lines, there was things that I did, and people were just like, oh my God, you really do that? You really do this? You take care of that? Well, first of all, I credit my father. My father was one hell of a man who I am internally grateful, because he laid down that blueprint on what a man should do, especially we didn't date, we courted through the courting process and everything else. And so, I was a big believer in, matter of fact, I just thought about this when opening car doors. I remember I opened the door for Julia, and, it was, oh, it's so cute and this, that, and other. And I kept doing it. I remember one day she was walking over to the door, and I kind of got in front of the door handle. I'm like, you ain't opening this. There's no way in hell you open this door. And
It was something that I wasn't used to at first.
yeah, and that was crazy. It was crazy because, I used to sit there and be kind of offended by it, but I had to also learn that you really can't sit back and complain when you do something for somebody, because if they've been doing something for themselves for so long, it's going to be different. It's going to be something new, and you're just going to have to grow them out of that process. And even to this day, I still do. Because I remember one day I messed with her. I said, okay, you open that door, you're going to keep opening that door. And so yeah, that was my little take on that. I think what made things really crazy is when we were dating, and for those who don't know, she is a nurse, RN, and she was working as a traveling nurse during the early parts of COVID, pretty much. So day one, she was working as a nurse at different hospitals. I think she works in like telemetry and different other departments. And
medical, surgical, ICU.
See, bomb. I'm only a computer person. She is the real lifesaver. That's the reason why I call her my shero. Not my hero. She's my shero. So yeah. So it's funny, even early in COVID, the one thing I brought up to her, I said, you know what? COVID is going to change everything for dating. Cause I'm like, obviously we had to, I think I heard somebody say it yesterday. We were all put on punishment at the same time. Mm-hmm. We were all stuck inside. Shout out to Miss Lisa. She's an amazing loctician in Fresno, California. I'll make sure she gets this. She's amazing. And I should plug her place. Do you want to plug her place?
Yeah. Shout out to Miss Lisa at the Wig It 2 salon in Fresno, California. She is a licensed sister loctician, and she is a breath of fresh air. And I'm looking forward to getting my lock journey started again. Yeah. The right way.
Yeah, that's cool. And let me tell you this. And what was really amazing about that, because we were, first of all, initially, listen, family, if you're listening, initially we were only going down there because it was for a consultation. Yeah, consultation. So I'm thinking, okay, we'll drive down there, me and the puppy. We'll just go ahead and just hang out, 20, 30 minutes, we'll go. Well, me and the puppy, we took the puppy out for a walk, and while she was the start of her consultation, and when I got after the walk, I actually ran into Miss Lisa. Didn't even know it was her. I should have just read her scrub, but I didn't. And she saw our dog Duchess, and she sat there and was, wanting to see Duchess, wanted to talk to her, and she was petting her, and those two just had an interaction from the beginning.
They bonded.
And they did bond. And then what I really enjoyed was the fact that when she looked at me and I said, yeah, my wife's in there right now. Her name's Julia. She's seeing somebody. She's like, no, she's seeing me. I'm like, okay. And then she welcomed not just me, but she also welcomed Duchess in. And amazing place. Definitely. Some people are like, are they child friendly? Yes, but they're actually pet friendly. Miss Lisa has her dog, Pepper. And
Pepper is a half husky, half Australian Queensland healer.
Beautiful big dog. Yes. We have a small dog, but that's all right. But yeah, so welcome me in there, and she was going over everything with Julia and explaining. Why don't you talk about it? I know we weren't supposed to be talking about Miss Lisa, but I'm gonna go ahead and just you say what you want to say about quickly about the process.
Well, I like the process because she basically educated me on sister locks, because that's what I initially wanted in the first place. The previous person that I went to was basically a hair braider that claimed that she was a newly licensed loctician. And she was like, oh, I could do your locks. I do your locks for you. And I said, well, I want sister locks. And she said, well, no. You don't want sister locks because it will thin your hair and take your hair out. So anyway, I had these ugly locks, lock extensions, and my roots were looking big and bulky, and they were like coming out of the lock itself because it was overgrowing the lock. So I'm like, something is wrong. So I found Miss Lisa at Wig It 2 salon, and She did a full assessment of my hair and she said, yeah, these need to come out because this wasn't done right. So basically, she started taking down my lock extensions and it took a total of 12 hours
12.
because I had really thick hair. That kind of caught me by surprise because I'm like, oh, I thought she was going to do this later. Didn't think she was going to do this right now. So she started doing that. And then, you know, my husband was there. He was on the couch and Duchess was like walking around. She said, oh, yeah, you can let her loose. And she was walking around the hair salon. It was a nice, secure area. She locked the doors in the evenings. Her hours are very flexible for people who work night shift. And, you know, the process is going to be like 2 or 3 days. So I made another appointment with her in February. So when I go there next time, she said I could stay overnight if I have to. You know, she has a couch in the next room and microwave, a little kitchen, little mini refrigerator. Like it's like a house or apartment in there.
There you go.
So she let the dog be comfortable. She gave the dog water. She was playing with the dog while she was taking my hair down. It was nice.
No, and I think that's amazing because I was really, really excited. It was the way she did things. So I'm going to sum it up like this. And so Julia might want to protect her ears for a second. So previous hair braider. We all know how that goes. But we'll go ahead and say this. For Miss Lisa in Wig It 2 Salon. Yeah, white people can get braids too. Okay, I digress. Please forgive me with that one. We're going to go back. Okay, so COVID. So I knew that COVID was going to be something crazy for dating. And I told Julie, I said, folks are going to, once COVID kind of opens back up and people start dating again, it's going to be the biggest crazy, almost freaknik type dating scene ever. Everybody is going to want to go and do everything but the right thing. You know, this is when I started hearing about hot girl summers, and I didn't know about those. Remember, I'm old dude, so I'm older in age, but seasoned appropriately. No, so they were going through, you know, their hot girl summers, and then, you know, they had to go to these breakfast establishments where everybody twerks and there's a DJ and stuff like that.
I think that was in Houston.
Oh my goodness. And I'm like, okay, this is bad. And what did I find out is, you know, Julia actually started to catch some heat from her single friends because she was married. Mm-hmm. I'm like, what the hell?
I had this one friend who I was friends with since 2013, and she kind of like came out of her little bag once I got engaged and got married, and kind of flipped everything on me. Like, oh, you changed. You want to get married. I'm like, no, you're the one that changed. Cause I think she was surprised that I got married before she did, because she would always gripe and cry about wanting to be a young bride. So when I got engaged and stuff, it just kind of like shattered her face. So after that, our friendship went down the tubes.
And that's ridiculous and really damn
was sad.
Yeah, it is. Because, you know, you would think somebody gets married, you're going to be happy for them and whatnot. I think my advice to single ladies, if you do have the married friend, is, you know, reach out. It's almost like mentorship. And I'm not saying you have to be a mentor, but if there's something that you aspire to be and you know somebody who is that and you admire what they do, talk to them. Just that simple. Just talk to them. If you know, it's just like a mentor situation. If you want to aspire to be that, well, then connect yourself with people that are where you want to be. And I guarantee you, to me, I still believe it to this day, the best referral for dating is married people. Yeah. You know, because we don't want a whole bunch of single people with us, because single people don't get me wrong, single people are fun. And I like to thank the single people that we know that your buck wildness, your craziness, your dating madness, your will of partner, or whatever game you're playing. Thank you. Because it's those nights where we're on the couch chilling, watching Netflix, and then she gets a little beep on her phone. And then all of a sudden it's somebody's drama. And I'd be like, damn, you remember that?
And I love listening to my friends that are single, their drama, and some of the friends that are married, because they have married drama too, because some of them date even though they're married.
That's
that's a whole nother story.
Oh, that's okay. All right, married people, don't get mad at me for that. Those opinions are solely of Julia Jackson and not of the Basic Black Podcast and any other subsidiary that we subscribe to. Anyway.
But I love listening to my single friends, and they be telling me, damn, it was a hot girl summer, but now it's a cold, bitter winter.
Preach.
It's cold out there.
Yeah. And so Julia, would you still say it's cold in them streets?
From what I heard, it's cold and desolate in those streets.
I can tell you this, for somebody who was married for a long time, and regardless, I'm not going to say regardless, my ex cheated on my ass twice, whatever. I'm not bitter. I went from bitter to better, and I'm okay with that. I wish I had Beyonce's Upgrade You, because I was very much so upgraded.
And you know what? Even though, like, when I dated abroad or whatever, I would tell somebody to be open-minded about the different races. You know, you could meet a black man in Europe. You could meet a black man in England or the Netherlands or Germany. Because at the time before I met Reginald, I was talking to an African guy that lived in Germany, and he was an IT guy. So you don't have to just date, oh, I'm going to go to Europe, I'm just going to date white men. No, you date everybody. You don't just focus on one group or one race of people. That's the issue I have with the passport bros, because I'm like, if you're going to date abroad, just date different women abroad. Like, don't just focus on a specific country. Like, oh, I'm going to go to Colombia and get me a Colombian woman.
The DR.
Now, or the DR. Now, it's hard for them to go over there, because these women, they have their little brothers and cousins and stuff like that, and they're in these gangs, and they robbing these guys, these passport bros. They looking at them as a new come up, as a lick.
Yes, this is what I say, and I'm gonna say this to the ladies. Ladies, don't be mad at the brothers, bros, or where the hell they want to call themselves this weekend. Thank you. You need to do the same thing. I don't say the Dominican Republic. I say go to Europe. And I'm a big believer in Europe because I'm a military kid. So I used to live in Germany for a number of years. Now, my adult years, no, I didn't. But I always remember being that military kid. You saw pretty much of the rainbow of things. And this is like, for me, this is like in the 80s, you know, the early 80s, almost the 90s of spending time there. Because I remember, you know, tons of interracial couples and whatnot and so forth. But what got me was, I remember when my father was done with his time in Germany, because we were in Wiesbaden, Frankfurt, Stuttgart, Hanau, Berlin. We were in Italy for a year. We were in Belgium. I mean, we were Brussels. We were everywhere. And so, but I remember getting on that flight going home, and then we actually ended up landing at Danley Field in Montgomery, Alabama, because that's home for me. And before we got off that little commuter plane, because we stopped off initially in Atlanta, and then they caught the plane to Montgomery. My mom explained something to me. She's told me, and it shocked me because it's myself, my sister, and my brother. I'm the youngest, and she told me, this ain't Germany no more. What you knew is who are your friends and who you can be friends with. You have to be a little bit more careful. Now, obviously, being a young child, I just thought like, oh, stranger danger and whatnot. But, you know, I didn't know that really was going to be the issue with dating. For me, it was interesting because my mother, a very beautiful, amazing, strong Black woman, was very much so about her kids being brought up right. And I'm not saying like, well, you must be with a Black person to be brought up right, but no, about the way you conduct yourself. My mother was a womanly woman. She carried herself as a woman, and she was strong, but she was vulnerable. And my dad used to always say that your mother always, could do it, but she know when she didn't have to. And I really admire that. And that was something that I even see with Julia now, because I was able to kind of get that guard down enough for her to say, hey, okay. Because I love to cook. I love, I'll
And I
clean.
love to eat your cooking.
Thank you. Last night was chilly night. Anyway.
So good.
So the thing about it is, clean up the house. I mean, I don't even let her iron because I'm weird. I have this thing where I love to iron. Please forgive me, guys out there. I don't mean to expose in game, but yeah, I was so used to having, my father would have his military, his BDUs, battle dress uniform, like camos. And so he would, sit there and he would make sure that everything was squared away. I was in ROTC, so I'm ironing my pants. I was in Montgomery, Alabama. I was at Jeff Davis High School back in the late 80s, early 90s, graduated in 92. And it's like, so I was used to doing that. I was used to shining the belt buckles and having the shoes and having everything together. And for somebody who used to be a really big guy, because I played football in high school and a little bit college here and there. And for being a big guy, I was not a sloppy dude. I was not going to, the big fat dude, because I was.
You were put together.
Thank you. But I was a big dude. I mean, I was a defensive lineman, offensive lineman in high school and whatnot. And so, I had dad like, nah, you got to keep that shit. You got to keep it squared away. That's what you got to do. So anyway, so luckily, the beautiful woman to my right fell in love with me, and I tricked her with all my charm. And I remember getting her a ring, and I kind of surprised her. And don't get me wrong, the ring was small as hell. The
ring didn't mean a thing.
You got to understand, after going through, and I was paying with child support and everything, and don't get me wrong, I'm okay paying for child support and taking care of everything else because I was doing that anyway. So, I went ahead and took what little monies I had. I think it was like a little bit over $1,000, went to Zales and got a ring. But once I gave it to her, I said, hey, I promise you that this isn't the last one. I'm going to upgrade it, and I'm going to get you bigger and better, if you can love me, but if you can believe in me. And I'm happy to say I kept that promise a couple times, actually. So she has her selection of rings. I hope she probably melt down the original one because it's so damn small compared.
I still have the original one.
I want to know. You can melt the damn thing down, but for the people who don't buy jewelry for their spouses. Inside joke. You should listen to another recording and you'll understand what that one means. It's
that clown.
Yeah, exactly. Clown to the freaking Clown Maximus.
Straight bozo.
Okay, another story, another day. We're going to keep it going. Okay, so I'm going to say this, and I know because I've ran into, I'm going to throw one on Julia, and she wasn't expecting this one. The worst type of dating people who I have found and I've noticed, and I try my best to stay the hell away from, are the one-sided, get ready for this, Julia, you don't know this is coming, one-sided, single-minded, group-thinking group of people who are in the illustrious Divine Nine. Oh, the sororities and fraternities and all their crap. Oh my God, there are people, I don't even get this, that feel like I am not going to be with anybody unless they're an alpha or a kappa or a sigma or a Q.
That's funny. I knew a girl that was like, oh, I have to date. He has to be in the Divine Nine. He has to be an alpha or a sigma or iota.
Oh, you forgot about iotas. Oops.
See, there you go. There you go. And I'm like, yeah, that's why you're going to still be single, because that's a small pool of men.
So how long has she been married now? How many years is it?
She ain't been married. She's been engaged before, but she hasn't been married.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So if there's any married men who are in the Divine Nine and you really want somebody who is also in the Divine Nine, yeah, I don't. I mean, to me, and let me get your take on it, Julia. To me, it seems like most women who are this whole Divine Nine dating crew, I feel like they kind of get circulated, like they get recycled through the groups. Like, I dated this person and dated that person. I hope they didn't know I dated this person.
Yeah, because it's like you're dating in a small vacuum. Like when I was single, I didn't care if the person was Divine Nine or not. Even though I'm Divine Nine, I wasn't looking for somebody like, oh, he has to be Greek. I didn't care. I just want him to be a good man and have his ish together.
Actually, I do put an expletive flag on here, so you're actually allowed to cuss. So really
But it's like, I wasn't looking for, he has to be 6'2" and dark skinned with a bald head, and he has to be a member of Kappa Alpha Psi fraternity and all that different stupid stuff. I'm like, no, and he don't have to be 6'2". I don't care.
You forgot about the other 6. It's not what you dirty minded people are thinking. Got to be making 6 figures. Got to be making this. Shout out to Kevin Samuels. Rest in peace, my friend. You are definitely the GOAT.
He is the GOAT. I love Kevin Samuels.
And oh my God, I can.
And I'm a female.
Because
a biological female.
Thank you. Yeah. Original equipment.
Organic.
There you go. There's only 2 genders. We'll talk about that later. But yeah, so no, it's definitely respect out to him. Julia actually got me on to the Kevin Samuels, the whole thing with him late. I was late, but definitely if you could just peel back some of the very blunt ish things he might say, there's still some good information there. What used to get to me is he preached an old thing, what they used to say, you can't be a nickel out there looking for a dime, or you can't be a dime looking for a dollar. It was the offerings, like, what do you offer as a person? What do you bring to the table? And I'm just going to go ahead and tell y'all, ladies and men, I'll start out with ladies. Pussy is not a given. You shouldn't be like, I got the greatest, I got the sunshine. And so, yeah, that's worth 6 figures right there. No. And brothers, I'm not, even you, the devil D slinging brothers that be having these girls spending paychecks and
devil dick.
I wouldn't say it. Yeah, the devil D. And we ain't talking about the New Jersey hockey team. No, but yeah. So I've heard some crazy single stories about that where people are just like, they're doing everything but sell their kids. Like, I gotta have them. He's so special. The brother don't got a job. If he does have a job, it's at like McDonald's, Kentucky Fried Chicken, Carl's Jr., or some stuff like that. He has no hopes. He has no future. And I'm telling you this, ladies, if you are dating a man or think you're dating a man and he might have devil D, if you go to his house for a throwdown session and you hear the smoke detector beeping, oh yeah, you about to get it.
Shout out to my homie, Kwame.
Mr. Smoke Detector. Anyway, but he's definitely, I can't wait to have Kwame on. He is a really good friend of ours. He was very much so a lifesaver for me when I was going through everything with being alienated from my children and whatnot. He was a resource. He was a good friend and still is a good friend to not just myself, but to Julie as well. He's an amazing father. Hats off to him. He is truly an amazing father who's had to deal with a lot of craziness. So I'm really proud to call him friend, and hopefully soon he'll be on the podcast, and we'll be bringing more content. It's going to be really interesting. I'm hoping, fingers crossed, I'm hoping that I can convince Julia into actually getting back on the podcast, because number one, she might not believe it, but we both have on headsets right now, so we can monitor what each other's saying. But I love her voice.
Thank you.
I know she tells me like, Reggie, you have a good voice. I mean, I did radio and stuff, but I would have to work it to, fake it to make it, because my voice don't always sound like this. But whatever. So I hope that she will come back. But
I'll be back.
There you go. She made it official. All right. Thank you.
I'll be back. Yeah.
Because nobody wants to hear my crazy ass like 30, 45 minutes straight talking about things. But I wanted to talk about, we talked about COVID, we talked about relationships, we talked about Miss Lisa. We love you, Miss Lisa.
Miss Lisa.
We talked about
It to Salon in Fresno.
Yeah, so we definitely talked about that. I mean, it's really kind of a mixed bag of things that we're talking about, because for us, we have been living in California for going on like 3-ish years, and it was definitely a different landscape versus the being in Phoenix. I mean, when I met Julia, My fraternity brother, Damon, rest in peace, my friend.
D to the dog.
To the day. He basically said, "Hey, I got somebody I want you to meet. She's really cool. Do you want to just come on out?" It wasn't even like a blind date. It was like, "Why don't you come out and meet her?" I'm like, "Bro, I don't want to come out there." He was down in off like 51st Ave in Phoenix, and I was in Chandler, and I didn't feel like driving down there, but I did. And I'm glad I did because he told me to go outside and wait. His friend was going to be coming up to the house soon, and parking was kind of slim. So find a parking space and just kind of hang out there to make sure nobody takes it. Okay. So I did. I sat there in a parking space. I sat there holding a parking space, and here comes this silver Nissan Rogue, and I went to the door. I think I went to the door and I opened it up, and there was this vision of beauty wearing a something I'd rather be in Canada sweatshirt or something, something like that. I mean, so it wasn't like she was like, oh my gosh, she had on like, bodycon dress and had on heels and everything else. She was gorgeous in a hoodie.
And I wasn't wearing any makeup.
None whatsoever, and still gorgeous. I mean, I'm going to be honest when I say this, and I know I told Julia this, but I'm going to say it to everybody. When I opened that door and looked at her, to myself, this is, I was probably looking goofy as hell on the outside, but on the inside, I was like, I'm going to marry this woman.
Oh.
I'm going to marry this woman. But the crazy part was she had to report to Sacramento, California the next day for a travel assignment. And I was like, damn, I really like this girl. Like, we sat and talked. I'm like, it was a party, and it was a party going on, but it was just party going on right here. No, it was a party going on, but it was just us and a very ugly looking spice cake.
But it was so delicious.
Yeah. Shout out to Marvin.
So delicious.
The funny part about it is I don't even know if I ever had spice cake before, but Damon's friend Marvin made that cake, and it came out looking completely horrible. But it was the best damn tasting cake ever. So it's you never know. Don't just judge off first glances. But I remember, I had a slice, and then Julia came in, and I offered her a slice. And it was funny, just in the midst of conversation, she just went and got a piece of the cake and just fed it to me. Like, I'm like, oh shit. Oh, wow. This is okay. I'm being fed by a hot girl. This is crazy. It's not even summer. No. So I was just really thrown by that. It's like, wow, I was, and still really not used to knowing what something good is. I wasn't used to knowing that, it's okay for a woman to, treat her man or potential man, like, with the respect and courtesy and care that she would demand back from me. And I was really impressed by that. That gave me just thoughts about my mother. And it was something that I saw Peggy A. Jackson when the whole spice cake thing. That was something I know my mom would do for my dad. And she's probably been sharing a slice of spice cake up there with my dad for a number of years. But yeah, it's crazy, but I'm happy for that. But what I do know, and from what I do see often, is really when it comes to relationships, unfortunately, people just aren't really committed to be committed. And and not to sound wrong, but you're gonna laugh at me, but who's the best women, the type of women that are in the dating game right now? Married women. Yeah, married women are the best single dating women ever. I'm like, and they killing it. I'm like, it's so backwards now.
They are. They getting all the men.
Yeah, like they're there, but your potential dream guy is being taken by somebody who's already had a dream and willing to have another one. But anyway, I don't know, Julie, you have a question or anything, or something might come to mind while me just rambling like I always do?
No.
Okay, so I'm gonna mess with her some more. But no, ladies and gentlemen, it's we enjoy what we do here at the Basic Black Podcast. We have an amazing time getting emails from listeners. And if you want to send a email, it's going to be basicblackpodcast@gmail.com. And we would love to hear from you, good, bad, or indifferent. Whatever platform that you're listening, be it Google, be it Apple, be it Amazon, Spotify, whatever, please take a second to rate the podcast. I know we really appreciate it. And if you're going to rate it low, give some reason why. We love that. We love constructive criticism. And if there's something that we can do to make things better or provide different guests or
give us some feedback.
Yeah, we would really appreciate that. We're very open to this. It's kind of a new platform. For Julia, I've been kind of tinkering around with it, but I feel like with everything, you got to grow. And so that's what we're doing. New equipment, new mics, new studio stuff, new Rode Podcaster 2, wireless mics, GoPros, and trying to get stuff ready for YouTube. So, so we're definitely growing. So what I'm going to say is, if you made it this far, thank you for listening to the Basic Black Podcast. But before I sign out, any last words or advice or anything that you want to say, Julia?
I would just say when it comes to dating, you have to keep an open mind, and you also have to have boundaries.
Yes. Boundaries. Oh man, that's a whole nother one. Boundaries and non-negotiables.
Yeah.
You need to establish a list. I'm glad you said that. Oh my God, it's going to go longer now. Non-negotiables. Oh my goodness. Non-negotiables. You have to sit back and you really need to figure out what you are not willing to do. If you're like, I'm not going to date a woman who has 5 kids, don't do it. Or you don't want to, I don't date somebody who's been incarcerated.
Or I'm not going to date a man who has young kids, like kids that are out of diapers, maybe like maybe 5 years old. Or, he might have one that's wearing a diaper and then one that's like 5 or 6 years old. No, you don't want to do that.
And one on the way.
Yeah, one on the way.
One on the way. Yeah, no, and that's true, because that was something that even dealt with our relationship. Luckily for me, my sons one was no longer a minor; he was an adult, and the other one was 16, so it was close to not being considered a minor anymore. So yeah, I knew that was a concern. But for me, and I'll say this, for when I met Julia, I wanted transparency. I wanted to put everything on the table and let her know, this is my baggage. Let me know what your baggage is. And let's examine each other's bags and see if it's enough for you to say, okay, I can deal with that. For me, I had no issues, and I do not carry any issues for what Julia did, dated, hated, liked, or whatever in her past, because her past is just that, the past. That's her dating past. And I think there's better lessons in learning, being honest and open about that, than just being, oh my God, I can't believe you did that. Why'd you go overseas? You dated a white person. Oh my God. No. I mean, it really makes her a very well-rounded person. It makes her a well-traveled person, a good soul. And she gets the chance, by being open and honest and a world traveler and keeping her possibilities wide open, that she had the opportunity to meet amazing people. Just because you meet somebody and y'all don't date, it doesn't mean that's not an amazing person. And so even through our years, I've seen, I've met people from Julia's travels in the Netherlands and whatnot, we've basically bonded and made lifetime friends.
Yeah.
So every connection is not meant to be a love connection. Every connection is not supposed to lead to marriage. Seek out friendship. I think that's where people kind of make that mistake. They go into a relationship on the first date. She shows up wearing a wedding dress and things look kind of weird. So keep your options open. But if you're looking for love, please be ready for love. Not just ready, just in the sense of, everybody else is doing it, I'm doing it. So anyway,
That's right.
Yeah, thank you. And with that, I like to thank Julia for coming on the podcast this evening. Like to
Thank you for inviting me.
Oh yeah, it's like I mean, I will go to the farthest extents to get you, which means like the bedroom, like 2 doors down. Like, hey, you want to come and get on the podcast? So, but anyway, everybody, thank you so much. Have a fantastic day and be the best you. And thank you again for listening to the Basic Black Podcast. Peace, good tidings, and we're out. Take it easy. Goodbye.